Welcome to Homestead. I'm going to go over, this is what I'm going to go over, what we're going to cover. What is a homestead exemption? So there's also several types of exemptions. So homestead means it's the place where you have your homestead, where you reside as your homestead. So that's what homestead means. We're also going to talk about how to look up your property account number, and we're going to ensure that you are the owner of record. Sometimes when you buy a house, there's a lapse, and the county, some counties you have to fill out the form, and some counties pick it up off the filing. There's no exact science to it. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. So we'll teach you how to look that up. How to file the exemption, we'll go over that. And then a couple of at the end, I'm going to go over some important dates about recurring. It's like, okay, I filed this exemption, and then what happens? Like, what's that mean? So we're going to go over that. So before we do, this is kind of a mini commercial, but it's really just to give you all tools. Even though you've closed on a home and you're a homeowner, I have a YouTube channel. Some of you might have seen that when you were working with us. Just go to YouTube and look up Loan with Jen. It's just become my passion. I've got over 20, I'm in my 26th year of business. I've closed over 4,000 loans. I'm just super excited to give people information that's going to help them. I'll probably do this about 10 more years, and I just want people to get real facts. And so every week I release 2 videos, and there are some playlists for people that are already in the home. So, and then if you have a friend, point them to the channel. I'd love for them to watch some of the videos. If we can help them, we'd love to do that too. But just please use that as a resource and go subscribe. That would just tickle me to death if you guys subscribe. That would be great. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go over homestead exemption defined. So homestead, you can only declare that if it's your primary residence. It's where you reside day in and day out. It is your primary residence. If it's an investment property, this exemption will not apply to you. It's not a homestead property, primary residence. It's an investment property. So if the property tax rate for your county, school, everything adds up to 2.5%, you're going to pay 2.5% on the fully assessed value by the county if it's investment. If this is a homestead property, which that's what we're talking about, it's not an exact 20%, but it's an approximate gauge. So what happens in the exemption is that it allows, let's say that your property was worth $100,000 assessed by the county. The county taxes for the county and like emergency medical, and the county has 3 or 4 different divots of different taxes that are applicable. Your house would be reduced to 80% of that $100,000 number. So in other words, you're paying tax on $80,000 instead of $100,000. So that's how that works. When it's school taxes, so I'm jumping down to the green down at the bottom. So taxes are comprised of county, school. Now school doesn't give the 20%. School is just kind of a flat 25,000. So it's more beneficial for smaller valued properties. 25,000 is a larger percent on a $150,000 house than it is $1 million house. Okay, so that's an important thing to note. There are some of you that have a utility district, a MUD, a multiple municipal utility district. That's usually to cover things like water, development of a neighborhood. We see this a lot with new construction. So you not only have county and school, but you've got MUDs, other utility. Those don't always have an exemption on them. The exemption does not always apply to those. The county is definite. School, as we mentioned, is a different kind of a flat number, and then MUDs and other utilities may or may not count an exemption for the value. So every county is different. Some neighborhoods are different. So you just need to double check with that. Okay. So there is a question, very good one. Are you filing this only once per year? Yes. You only file it once, actually. So you're allowed to file this form, or you're eligible to file the form the first year that you live in the house on January 1. So people that purchased in 2020, you couldn't file the form in 2020 because it wasn't a January 1 yet. So now that it's January 1, we're going to go through in the program. There's some slides on, you have a range of time to file. You have until April 15th. And we're talking about Harris, Montgomery, we're talking about Houston and surrounding counties. If people are watching this later online, you know, you have to check your state, county, etc. So once you file this form, you do not need to file it again, okay, until you move to another place, and then you're going to file it in the new house, and it will fall off this one. So people that are vacating their house and leaving it for a rental, you're going to go file it in another house somewhere, and the homestead will fall off this house, and you'll revert to full taxes as well. Okay. Correction on the deadline, it's April 30th, actually, is the deadline. So you have a few more months to do that. So again, here in the middle of the page where it says note, this is available to you just the first year that you occupy on January 1. So if you purchased in 2020, you're going to fill out the form this year, which is what we're going to go over. Okay. Now, I do want to make another note. Once you're filing the homestead form and it's your homestead, the county, at least in Houston and surrounding counties, the rule here is your value cannot go up, the taxable value cannot go up more than 10% per year. So before I go to the next slide, I really want to explain this. So you purchased the house from a seller, and they could have been living in the house for 20 years, and their taxable value was really super low. And when you were looking, you're like, oh, why are they only paying tax on like half of what I'm purchasing it for? Well, the reason is because they've had a ceiling, they've had a cap of 10% each year that they've been in the house. And if they're over 65, it's frozen, it's like even more. So anytime the property switches hands, which now it has because you own the property, January 1, the first year that you own the property, is the county's green light to raise the value to the market. So there's two values. There's market value, which is what things are selling for in the market, and then there's taxable value. They're two different things. Market value is what is happening in reality, buying and selling and demand and whatever, and prices go up and they inflate. Let's say that in this $100,000 example, the house is really, for that same similar house, are 150, but you got in there and got your taxes capped at 100. The next year, they couldn't go more than 110. The year after that, 10% higher than that. So you're capped every year on how high they can raise your taxes. However, the first year that you're in the house, they're going to catch you up. I can assure you that they're going to figure it out. So just wanted to let you know how that works. We do have a question about this, so I'm going to read that. Once you get the exemption, will it be applied to the tax amount that you already have, or will it reduce the monthly amount to be paid? So that's a very good question. Your house is going to be assessed. I hope this answers it. Your house, you're going to get assessed value and what the county assesses your house at probably in March. So March and April, the notices are going to come out. And we're going to, at the end of my slides, we're going to go through what to look out for that. But once the county determines the value of your house, that's what you're taxed on. So whether or not your monthly payment goes up or down, if you have an escrow account, will depend on what is being collected currently. Now, we go through great lengths before you close, and we did with most of all of you, to try to put your escrow account at what we thought it was going to be. However, we can't over collect too much from what it was. So we had to go by what the seller was paying at the time. So it's a little bit more of a complicated formula, and you can contact me on the side if you are worried about that, definitely. but that was a very good question. So there's homestead exemption, which we're talking about, and then at the end, I am going to go over what happens from here. Like, how are these values? Like, what does that mean? So that was a very good question. And I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, so there are other exemptions available that this may or may not apply to you. So homestead, everybody is available to when it's your primary residence. Over 65, there's an extra 10,000 off of the school value. So remember I said 25,000, well, it would go up to 35. And then there's also more of a ceiling. So you have definitely more of a ceiling. Things almost get kind of frozen in time. So over 65, you can have a homestead exemption and also over 65. So if one of the occupants, whoever's on title, if one of the people is over 65, or when they attain 65, that's when you can file for the exemption. And you don't have to wait till January 1st to file over 65. You can file at any time, okay? Anytime throughout the year. There's also disabled, people that are disabled. You can be partially disabled, and it's a confirmation that you receive from the government. So there's an official document that you would get, and you can turn that into the county. You get some discounts on the school taxes, and possibly from other taxing units as well. So every county is a little bit different. You'll need to talk to the county or go to that website to see how that might apply to you. Now, if you're a veteran and you have 100% disability, taxes, you don't have to pay taxes at all. All taxes are wiped out. So that's how we honor our veterans, which is a good thing. If you're a surviving spouse of a disabled veteran, member of the armed forces killed in action, you might be eligible. So make sure you can scroll the website. We're going to show you the websites to go to if the surviving spouse might apply to you. So the forms we're going to go over are also available in Spanish. So I did want to mention that there is, when you're cruising on the website, there is a link that you'll just look for Spanish. And so this form can be filled out in Spanish that's sent in, okay? So we're going to go over how to fill the physical form out that you would need to print. You can print it and handwrite it, or you can fill it out. Online, it's fillable, it's a fillable form, and then you can print the typed out, it'll type it with your computer, and then you can print it out that way, okay? If you live in Harris County only, there is an app. There's a phone app that you could use. All the other counties do not have that. They're not as advanced as Harris County from a home tax authority standpoint, but I do want to mention that, and I'll have that towards the end of this as well. So we will go on to the next slide. Okay, so step one. Step one is you have to look up your property account. So this is really important because even when you file the homestead exemption, I want to train you how to go in a few months and look at your account again and see, did the homestead form, did they get it? So I will tell you that every year we have a handful or more of clients that say that they filed it and they sent it in the mail and it didn't get there. So I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to tell you that that's reality. So we as a service look up for you. This probably May, June is, by that time they should be all coded in. We're going to look all of our clients that closed last year. We're going to look you up and we're going to call you to confirm that, hey, congrats, your homestead exemption was on there. And if it wasn't, we're going to tell you that too. But we're just one lender, y'all. I mean, some people might be watching this and they don't have me as their lender. So they need to, you need to learn how to look this up for yourself to make sure that that exemption is on there. Okay. So we did have a question. I'm going to do it really quick. Can you do this online? You can use the phone app that I mentioned in Harris County, but no, other than that, it has to be mailed in because you have to have a copy of your driver's license. We'll go through that. So you have to physically mail this form. Okay. The only online that's done is if you're in Harris County, you can split it. So there is a question about ownership interest. Brenda, I am going to get to that. It's on a future slide. So very good question. Just hang tight. All right, back to step one. You're going to open up your internet browser for whatever county you're in. So I would just Google Montgomery County, Harris County, and then you're going to add appraisal district after it. Harris County Appraisal District, Montgomery. Once you do that, you're gonna search up for your property. I'm going to show you how to do that. So you're at the website that's the county appraisal district that you live in. Harris County Appraisal District, Montgomery County Appraisal District, Fort Bend County Appraisal District, Galveston County Appraisal District. And then what you're going to do is, so this is Harris County, and you need to find property search. All the counties are a little bit different, so you're just going to have to scroll around and see what makes sense. Fort Bend says look up taxes online, okay? And these are for the county taxes. Now, some of you live in places where the bills are not in one place. You have the county, and then you have to go to the MUD to look up the MUD taxes, but the county is going to be the driver of the exemption, okay? So this is the place to start. You're going to go to the drop down under property search, and you're going to look for real property. Real, it's not business property, it's real property. Then when you're under real property, if you go down to the bottom right of my slide, you're going to search by address, because remember before I said that the county might not have your name of record yet. They might have missed the memo from the recording when your house purchased, that all the legal documents were recorded with the county. That's why you got so much junk mail that I'm sure you are all loving at this point, is because it's public record. So you're going to search by address, because if you search by owner name, you might not show up yet, which is okay. It's not something to worry about. I'm going to show you how to fix that. Okay. But you want to search by address. Okay. Then you're going to get a tab is going to come up, and it's going to say, okay, search. Now, this filter is a little tricky, and we've learned it the hard way. So you're going to have the street number, whatever that is. Now, when you get into things like street, court, south, north, the filters on these sites, I know Harris County is really finicky about how the name is styled. If you type in the wrong, let's say it's Main Street, and you type in street all in one word, it may not show up because it has it as ST. So it's not smart. It is not. So you might have to try it. If you don't find it at first, just say, okay, let me do ST, let me do street spelled out. Maybe let me just do Main and see what comes up. So you might have more records come up then at that point, but you can just scroll through and see which property might belong to you. Now, it's only going to pull up things in Harris County. It's not going to pull up any other county if that applies to you. So you're going to do this, and then you're going to push the search button on the far right-hand side. Okay, so you're going to do that. Okay. Next, so your tax record's going to come up. So you see here, this Mary's, her street came up as ST. She looked it up as Main, and it's going to pull up all the Mains, Main Street, Main Circle, whatever. In this case, street was the only thing available. So your account number is to the left, and in all of Harris and surrounding counties, this account number is also called a CAD number. We're going to see that on the form that we're going to see in a minute. CAD means County Appraisal District, but the account number is a 15-digit number, okay? So it's very long. It asks for it on the form, and you're going to be like, what is this number and where do I find it? So this is what I'm teaching you how to do, because it's just, the more you can fill out this form accurately and fully, the less someone on the other receiving side has to search and input in the wrong place. You definitely want to reduce the chances that there's error on the input. So we want to fill that form out that I'm going to lead you through in a minute as quickly or as fully as possible. Okay. So we have found our record, and it's a hyperlink, and you're gonna hyperlink it, and it's gonna open up your record. So I didn't have it's gonna open up your record online to show you what it looks like. And actually, I think towards the end when we're done, I'm gonna actually pull up a record to show you what that looks like. Now, let's say you pull this up and you're on Main Street and it says Mary's name and that's not you. Like, oh my goodness, this is not me. It just means that the county hasn't received the correct form. Now, again, many of you, it shows up automatically because the county will read, somehow they have a way to get notices and they change it automatically. Things with the counties have been moving slower because of COVID. There's, as you know, there's a lot less just different things going on. So it's a good thing to check, but if your name isn't on it, don't worry. It doesn't mean that you're not the owner. That's not what that means. It means you just need to help them a little bit get it correctly on here. Okay, so that's what we're going to go on next. Okay, so oh, good question. Is it always a 15 number? You just got one with 13. Well, yeah, it could be right. If it's only 13, that's okay. So 13 to 15. I thought it was always 15, so I stand to be corrected. So yes, 13 is fine. If that's what your record says when you pull it up, and that says that that's your account number, then that's what you use for sure. Okay, thank you for pointing that out. I learned something new. Okay, here's the form. So if you don't see your name, you want to go back to the main screen on the county page where there's going to be a tab that says forms. And you want to look for a form that talks about correcting a name or address change. And so because every county is different. I could show you Harris County and Montgomery County. It's called something different. So you want to search on the site for the form that can correct or change an address. So this is Harris County's form. So here most of this is just up in the top is where you would mail it. And again, you need to mail this in and keep a copy for yourself. Now, up here where it says account number, do you see up here in the very top line in the title, and it says search? So I think there's a hyperlink there to search the account number. It will take you through what I've already taken you through. Now, when you put tax year, you're going to put tax year, this tax year that you've been in the property as of January 1. So just put, this is 2021. So you're going to put 2021 on there. Okay. Now you're going to fill out section 1, and it's going to say the very first here in section 1, it says change to new owner. So you're just going to fill that out. You're going to check it. If it's to update a mailing address, like some of you might not want mail at the house. Some of you have a PO box. Some of you, it might not be your homestead. You're maybe vacating and you want it to go to a different address. Maybe you want it to go to your business address. So you could change more than one thing. You can change your owner name and you can change the address all on the same form. Okay. Or maybe there's an error or a spelling error in the name. That's also an option. Okay. Now it's a little more complicated if you need to correct the property location address. That's a little more complicated because that's a legal address. You might want to call the county for that one if your property is not a correct property location. I've never had that happen, but it's an option on the form, but it's probably never going to apply to you. Okay. Now, see the note there, there's a star that says, if requesting the change in ownership, you have to attach your deed to show them that you're the new owner. So that was in your closing documents. And at the top, it's called, the name of the document is warranty deed. And that's the official notarized document where the seller name is there selling the property to you. And it was signed by you and them, and it was notarized by the title company. So you want to refer to your documents It's buried in there somewhere. I know there's like 50 documents, but it's called warranty deed. At WARRANTY is how you spell it. And you just make a copy of that document. It doesn't need to be original. It's just a copy. It's usually 2 pages, 1 to 2 pages. And you're going to send that with this. That's why this all has to be mailed in. Okay. So you need to send that. Now it does say here that your closing statement also, you signed a closing disclosure at closing, because if you got a loan with me, you had a loan, you didn't pay cash, then it's called a closing disclosure. And anything that you send them has to be fully signed. No blanks. It has to be signed by us and you and the seller and the title company. That makes it official. Okay, that makes it an official document. Okay, so then down on that form, just to finish the form, you're going to fill out the name and the address and then sign it at the bottom, and you're going to send it in. Okay. I would send these certified. I would go to the mailbox, to the mail office, and I would send certified, you know, that little green card that you fill out. And I would have a record that you sent it through the US mail. So I would definitely keep that just in case you ever need it. Now, I do have a note to the side in red that says note. You can file for name owner of record. In fact, I need to change that on my own personal house. I just haven't gotten to it, but it's definitely a privacy thing, because anybody can look up your name on the internet and see what property you own. It's public record. So it would come up. And if someone did a search on your name, this record of the taxes and the house that you own will come up on the internet. So if you want to put owner of record and not have your name on there, that's okay. So you can do that as well. I just want to make that point. Okay, this is what the form looks like. Now I've got some breakdowns to different parts of the form. Okay, so the form has on the first page 3 sections. Really the first 2 pages is all you need to do. There's other pages. There's 3 or 4 pages on this, but only if you have the other exemptions we talked about, like over 65, etc. Now this form does not need to be notarized unless you're disabled or over 65. So if you have one of those other exemptions, make sure you get to a notary. We have a notary at the office. You're welcome to call me. We can arrange it, or your bank probably has a notary. So you'll need to get it notarized if it's something other than the homestead exemption. Okay. But so now we're going to go through different variations of the form. So section 1 of the homestead exemption form. So you are filing for a general residence homestead exemption. That's all of you that live there as your primary residence. That's what you qualify for. Now you could, if you're disabled and you're over 65, you could check all 3 of those boxes. You might qualify for all 3. So you could do that. Now, I did put here choose one to the right. I'm wondering if that's right. I might have just gotten a little Adobe Acrobat happy, but you can have multiple reasons for exemption. You are allowed to, as long as you qualify. Okay. And if you're a surviving spouse, you would put that in there. Now, cooperative housing, that really doesn't apply in tech. I would skip that, because in Houston, I've never had that apply. That's when people live in like communal areas. I don't even really ever pay attention to that. That's like maybe in other areas. I've never seen that happen. So there is a question here kind of in the middle that says, I put my cursor there, were you receiving a homestead exemption in your previous residence? Yes or no? So you're going to answer that truthfully. Are you transferring an exemption from a prior residence? That's yes or no. And are you transferring a tax limitation? So if you have a tax limitation, you probably know it. So if you think like, what is that? Then that means it probably doesn't apply to you. So I would answer no. And then at the bottom, you're going to put your previous address and previous county. Even if it's in another state, it doesn't matter. You need to put that on there. Okay. Okay, section 2. Oh, we have a quick question. Might be about that section. If it was an apartment, if your prior, that's a good question. It said even if it was an apartment. If you didn't own the property prior, you don't need to write anything there. Those questions here for did you receive homestead on your prior residence is only if you owned the property that you were vacating. So if you rented, then you didn't own it. So all of this would be no, 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 no. So that was a very good question. All right. So section 2, I think I answered you, Megan. Yeah, answered that. Okay. So section 2, are you single? Are you married? Are you other? I don't know what other would be, but it might be. Name of property owner 1, birth date, driver's license, or social. Okay. So that has to be given. If you don't put that on there, they're not going to file it. So again, I know a lot of us are concerned about privacy, but to some point, I mean, if you want this exemption, you're going to have to fill this out. And it's, up to the county to keep this information private. So what's your phone number? What's your email? And then name of borrower number 2. So you're going to fill this out fully. If there's no second borrower, then you don't have to put that. Now it says here % ownership interest. So you and a married person, you're both 100%. So it gets into different %. And that was one of our other questions. When you're owning the property, like I used to own a property with my in-laws. So we were 50% owner, my husband and I, and they were 50%. And I will tell you, I tried to be sneaky, or thought I was able to. And I thought I could get the over 65 on the entire property. And the county said, nice try, because they have my birth date. And they said, no, you are, half of the people that own the property are not over 65. So the over 65 only applies to half of the value. So if your value was 100 and I own 50%, because my in-laws own the other 50%, we only got the over 65 exemption on their 50% of the property. So it gets a little complicated, but if you just want to fill this all out as it asks. And if you're a married couple, you each own the property. You're just a blended 100%. Okay, so that's going to apply to most of you. So when you live, there is a question about, I live with my family, but only one of me is on the property. When you can only put people on here who are officially in title. So I now live with, my in-laws still live with me. I'm going to give you an example. So they still live with us, but they are not on the title to our property. So since they are not owners of record, even though they live with us in the house, I don't get to put them on here. So you can only put people on this form that are officially legally on title. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. We've got a lot of questions about this one, which is good. So another question, for a married couple, do you write 100% in both ownership interests? Yes. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Let's see, we had another question. I did answer the other one. What do you answer where it asks ownership interest? So we did that one. Okay, good questions, everybody. All right. Now down at the bottom, again, it has your mailing address if it's different from the physical address. So that's where you want to put that consistently on there if you want to receive mail in a different place. Okay. Now we're going to go on to section number 3. Date that you acquired the property. So that is your closing date. And then they ask you, what was the date that you started to occupy as your principal residence? Now, if you started, let's say you bought it and you don't occupy it yet because you're remodeling or whatever. If it's past January 1 and you're not officially occupying it yet, you're not going to be, able to get this discount homestead until you occupy on January 1. So I know sometimes people wait and whatever, but when you answer this form, that's what that is for. Okay, so you want to make sure you answer that the right way. There is a question, in case you make a mistake in the form and the county rejects it, do you have another chance to submit it? Yes, you definitely do. If they do reject it, I would see the reason why. And if you have any question, you want to call them. They are good about answering the phone and troubleshooting. I mean, they're really nice. So I would call them and just say, hey, I don't understand, but usually when they reject it, they send it back to you with a little typed. I got it back one time, I think, and it had something typed on there like, oh, you did something wrong. And so, yes, you just correct it and just send it back in. And again, I would send it certified mail just so you have everything kind of recorded when you do it. Okay, now on legal description, I'm down on the third line of the form. So legal description, that's going to be on all your closing documents. Again, you don't have to put it on here. It says if known. But again, the more you can fill out this form, the easier it is to omit error later on. So I would fill this out as much as you can. The next question is the applicant identified on deed or other recorded instrument? Meaning, are you on the warranty deed? Are you on the title? Are you on the recorded documents? Hopefully that answer is yes. That's a potential denial of why they might send it back to you if you're not. So the county isn't just going to change title to a property without proof that you're entitled to be on title. This omits fraud, and these little questions help make sure that the integrity of the information is all intact. Okay. And if so, what was the recording file? So when I mentioned to you to look for your warranty deed, which is where the seller transferred title to you, that was recorded and at the county. And that recorded document usually comes back to you within about 6 weeks after purchasing the property. And if there's a stamp on it from the person at the county that received it and recorded it of record. Now, if you don't have that, it's not the end of the world. I would just leave it blank. So they're not going to reject the form because of that. But if you have it and you've received the warranty deed back with the stamp that it's been recorded, then you want to do that. Now the title, when you close, the title company sends all these things to be recorded. So it's not something that you were needing to do. So I wouldn't worry. It is going to eventually make it back to you, but sometimes it takes more than 6 weeks. It says there, if you don't have the court filing number, the documentation must be provided, which again is the actual warranty deed. Probably as a safeguard, I would send not only the warranty deed, but your closing disclosure, the document that you signed at closing that's got all the numbers like, hey, this is how much your cashier's check is going to be. It was a 5-page document, and the title of it at the top is closing disclosure. So I would submit those 2 things if you don't have the recording number. Okay, so I would submit those there. We do have a couple questions. They probably pertain to this section. What do you write in the legal description? So look on it's on your closing documents. It's on the note. It's on the deed of trust. It's on your application that you did with us. So the legal description is threaded all throughout your closing documents. So you want to look on those, and it's going to say legal description. Now it's also back. I taught you how to look up your record of your property. It's also on there. So it's on the county appraisal district site. So towards the end, when we go to, I'll pull up a record and we'll just look at one. How about that? Oh, thanks for sharing that, Brenda. It's also on the Harris County Appraisal District site. Yeah, it's also going to be where I taught you how to look up your record number, your account number. It's the legal description is there. Very good questions, y'all. Super impressed. Okay, manufactured home. We don't finance manufactured homes, so if you do have one, I'm assuming that you've got a model and an ID number, so you would need to put that on there. The next question is, any portion of the property for which you're claiming a residence homestead income producing. This is really for agricultural exemptions. Now, Houston is a big city and there's no ag exemptions in city of Houston, I can guarantee you. But as you go out and you're out in farmland and like Belleville and Brenham and outer skirts, this might apply to you. You might get, if you farm or have cattle or whatever, if you think that applies to you, you will be entitled to I didn't mention that exemption because it really doesn't apply to most of you, but if it does, you can just ping me on the side and I'm happy to explain it. But it's an agricultural exemption for people. It's to help farmers that use it for income producing, and they're helping the community by growing things that we eat and everything else, and you can get an ag exemption. And then you would have to present the property that's ag exemption. So this isn't going to apply to most of you. Now, the thing that gets a lot of people caught up is the very last question on this slide. At the very bottom, it says number of acres that you own as your principal residence. Unless you know that you're over an acre, I would just put the less than sign 1. You don't need to put, I mean, if you wanted to, you could go to your appraisal and put, 4,567 square feet. I would just put less than 1 because it asks for acres, not square feet. And it's perfectly fine. You're not going to be denied because you don't know the exact acreage. Okay. So I would just put less than 1 on there, which is most people. If you have more than 1 acre, then you're going to know it and you can put it on there. 1.5, 2, so 40,000 square feet or 42, I think, is an acre. So you could look all that up online and convert it if you wanted to, and put it on there. Okay. All right. Section 4. Now, this is really important. So remember, with this form, you're sending in not only proof that you purchased the property and that you're the owner of record, which is the warranty deed and or the closing disclosure that you signed at closing. I would send both. You also have to submit your driver's license. So this is to kind of to guard against fraud and people saying, oh yeah, this is my primary, but I really don't live here. Okay, the county recently kind of stepped up their game, which I think this is a good thing, and said, hey, you need to show us your state issued driver's license, showing us that you claim this to the government as your primary residence. So your driver's license has to have the new address on it. So it's been really hard for some of us to get to the driver's license department because of COVID. So I get it. There's no exception to this. So you either have to get it or you don't. It can be the paper copy. You can show your old license with the picture, and then you can show what the DPS gives you, the Department of Transportation. You can show what they give you that you went and you actually did it. But if you don't do that, you will not be able to do this form. It will reject it and it will send it back to you. So if you haven't done it yet, you have 2.5 more months to file this form, or 3 months actually. So go ahead and get that done, as painful as it is to go down to the DMV, the Division of Motor Vehicles, or whatever they call it. That's what you have to do. Okay. You would need to submit a copy, front and back. I would do front and back. I think front's okay, but front and back is fine. And again, if you just have the paper version of the renewal with your address, you can just put those two together and make a copy of that. Okay. Yeah, and just as a reminder, if people do have to pop off, we are sending a recording to everybody that's coming. A couple people have said they have to pop off. All right, so we're back to section number 4. Very good questions, everybody. Thanks for engaging. Okay, number 1, this is a waiver of required documentation. So there's certain instances that they don't require you to have proof or whatever. So if you're a resident of a facility, like, I don't know, somewhere, you live somewhere, that's like an aging facility, then you would put that on here if that applies to you. If you're under a confidentiality program, actually, we did have someone recently, she was in the, she's a victim of spousal abuse, and she could not put anything, she cannot be found by anybody. She's not able to, it's a threat to her life. So she's under this program. So if something like that applies to you, you can, and again, you can file this owner of record, but things can be kept secret. You just need to communicate to the county that that applies to you. If you're in active duty of armed services, if you have a driver's license issued under a special transportation code. So if any of these apply to you, you're going to know it. And so you just want to read through this. Most of us, none of this applies to. You got to submit your driver's license. And then any additional information, if you own other property, they want you to put it on here. So even if you inherited it, if it's land, if it's acreage, you want to put everything on here that you own. Again, you know, I know a lot of us are concerned about privacy and having government agencies know things, but I know that we see it on a kind of when we run fraud guards and things when we're approving you. If you're not transparent about these things, you don't want it to come back and you know, be a problem for you later on. So if you do own additional property, you need to let the county know because it's on this form and you're signing it as an affidavit. So again, even property that you inherited, that you think might be insignificant, land, whatever, you need to put that on here, okay? We're gonna go to the next screen and we do have another question, so I'm gonna read that. Someone asked if we're able to hear this in Spanish. No, I'm not doing this in Spanish. I'm going to send the recording to everybody and they're able to, you know, watch it over and over, and maybe they can have someone that can help them translate. So sorry about that. I'm just not able to do it in Spanish. Another one, if a husband and a spouse own the property, but only one has a US driver's license, would the form be rejected because both are not sending the driver's license? That is a very good question. I think that a letter, I don't know the answer to that actually. That could be something that you could call the county, and I think that there's a very good letter of explanation that you could write a letter with it and send it. And then if they have any issues when they're reading it, they're going to let you know. But you're definitely going to get it because you own the property. And so again, I would just type up a letter of explanation as to what is going on and that they're in that other country working and haven't been able to, you know, because of COVID, get over here and get a Texas identification or whatever. So I think you should be fine, but just put that letter of explanation in there. So anything that's out of the ordinary around this form, then you just want to write a note to them and they'll get back with you about it. Okay, there is a human being that's receiving this form on the other end. So just make it really short and succinct and it should be fine. Okay, we are going to go, the last page is the affidavit signature. So by you signing this form, it's making it an affidavit, which means you are committing yourself to the truthfulness of these answers, okay? So you want to put your name there. You want to type your name in the blue where it says your name here. If you have a title, I mean, most of us are just going to put our name and we won't put a title or authorization. And then you sign where it says signature, you put the date, and then make sure to include your ID because it won't go if you don't have your ID on this form, okay? So we mentioned that really concludes the form. I still have a couple more things to talk about. Oh, I have a question. Only one owner signs it. Yes, it looks like one owner signs it. So there you go. There's just one place. Signature of property owner. Yeah, because I mean you own it 100%. If it's a spousal if it's a spouse that you own it with, it's community property. You both blended own it all together. So yes, you would be able to have one person sign this form. So again, if you want to file this online, I've heard that it's super easy. We had some clients the last couple of years that have used it. It's only a two-year app. It's pretty easy. And then you scan a copy of your driver's license and it uploads it. So this is super paperless for those of you that want to venture into that, then you can definitely do it. I would just go to the App Store and look up Harris County Appraisal District. Now, none of the other counties have it that we know of. And so only Harris County is the one that offers this, okay? There is a question to go back under the section 6, when we talked about title authorization, you could actually put owner there because you're just the owner. That's your authorization of why you're filling out this form. So that was a really good question. Okay. We're going to go over, these are the websites. I am going to send this PowerPoint out to you, but also remember Google is going to pull these right up for you. Fort Bend County Appraisal District, Brazoria County Appraisal District, Montgomery County Appraisal District. So you are going to easily be able to do this. And we did give you kind of a shortcut here under like Fort Bend. It says choose residence forms, and then you choose resident homestead exemption. So every website does have it does look a little bit different of where you go. So those of you that can hang around, I'll actually do that here. I'll just share my Google and I'll do it right here on the screen. I'll just do that with you. I do want to mention what happened. Like, okay, I filed this form and like, what happens? So just to repeat, you only need to file the form one time. Okay. So you file it once. Now it's rare, but we had a client last year that we helped unravel. It was very uncommon that this happens. But his wife, they had a disability and an over 65 on the property because of her, and she died. And so when those exemptions fell off, the county picks up the records of death records, and they automatically took all the exemptions off on the property. And so he was still living there as his homestead. So he had to refile and get some refunds. It was very complicated. It probably won't happen to most of you, I hope. But there are times that it can fall off, and that would be one of them. It was very strange, and I've hardly ever seen that happen. So every year it's good to just kind of go in and see what's going on. But I just did want to mention that. Now, every spring, in March or April, so very soon, you're going to start getting in the mail the county. I know Harris County sends you like this colored green card. So it's going to say appraisal district, Harris County, Montgomery. I know you're getting a lot of junk mail. Junk mail lasts for about a year to a year and a half. I'm sorry, but we have nothing to do with it. It just happens. So I don't want you to miss it. So anything that comes from the county appraisal district, you want to open it. And it's probably going to be your notice of value. Now, this happens every single year. So every year you are notified. So you don't only do your homestead exemption once, but every year the value is changing, up, down, the same, whatever. So they send you the notice, and they send you a whole 2 or 3 page document of your rights as a homeowner and how you can protest. So that deadline to protest is by the 15th of May. You can protest online. It will give you instructions. That's how most people will do it. Every county is different, y'all. Harris County, I used to live in. I now live in Fort Bend. Fort Bend is harder, actually. Some counties are nicer than others, okay? Everything is different. You just have to read what they send you. Now, if you want to protest your value and it looks out of whack and you're like, what is this? Oh my goodness. You definitely have the ability to protest. You want to fill out the protest form, and you want to also, get some help. Now later, keep track of your email. I am going to send out, I am going to do another webinar just like this with slides on some tips on protesting. I do not protest taxes for people. That is not my profession, but I have some guidelines of some things that I've heard and just known that can just help point you in the right direction with helping with some vocabulary. So I will be doing that. But regardless, there are companies that you can engage to help you with that. And then the way they get paid is whatever you save. If it saves you $1,000 on your taxes, they get 50%. If it saves you $1,000 of tax money, not value. So that's something that some people do. But when it's smaller increments, I don't know if it's worth it to pay someone to do that. But also your realtors can probably help you do comps and stuff. but it is something you would need to commit to. I mean, it takes some time. You've got to pull information and give a reason as to why your value should be lower, okay? And it's always a good idea to protest, for sure. Now, you're going to file the form on the 15th by the 15th of May. And then they start scheduling the hearings. They try to settle with you online through the online portal. It's called iFile. And they try to do it that way. It just saves out manpower and time. And it could be something as simple as, we're valuing your property at $360. Because remember, I talked about a little while ago, when they know there's a new owner of record, that is their green light to bring the property up to the market. And they will try. I am just here to tell you, with technology, they are going to try to get every penny that they can from your value. Just, you better be prepared for it. So if you've been getting away with the prior owner's value for a year, it's going to end. They will increase it. Now, let's say that you bought the property for $340,000. and they send you a value and say your house is worth $370. You can protest, and you should win, but you can protest and show them what you paid for it. You would send them your closing statement. You would upload that when you protest. That's your proof document, like, hey, I paid this amount. And so that should work. It's only going to work the first year, though. Because remember, the first year that you protest, which if you bought last year, this is your first full year, you can't use that excuse for 3, 4, 5 years. So this year is going to set your baseline for your value. And then from there, every year after this year, it can't go up more than 10%. Okay. That's just a benefit that you get that the county allots you. So you're going to have your hearings, if it makes it that far, in June and July. And then in November, that's when the bills come out. So November is when the bills come out for everybody. And if you're escrowing from your taxes and insurance, your escrow account, your lender is going to request a copy, and they're going to pay it in December. And as the homeowner, this is a question we get a lot. You're the homeowner. You're always going to get a copy. So we get a lot of questions every year like, oh my gosh, I got this bill. Do I owe all this money? No, because you're escrowing. So we're happy to answer the question, but if you know that you're paying it in your payment, don't worry. You're just keep it as a copy. You're owner of record, so you definitely get a copy of it. But your lender, they're good at getting their own copy. Trust me, they're going to pay the taxes. It's not going to slide. You don't need to send it to them. They're going to get their own copy, and the taxes will be paid. Okay. So we do have a question about this. It actually reverts back to the owner name of record. So this question is, should we wait until the name changes and goes through to send the homestead exemption? No, you can do it all at one time. So in the same packet, I would send change of record, homestead form. So not a problem. That was a very good question, actually. Thank you for asking that. Okay, so back to this. I just thought it would be nice to wrap together for you a couple of things of just things to look out for. So every spring is very active for all of you. You're going to get the notice of value every year that you own the house. Now, in addition, if you escrow with your lender, you're also going to get an escrow analysis. They're two different things. And so the spring is a very busy time. You need to watch your mail amongst all the junk mail that you're getting. And the escrow reanalysis and reconciliation with your current lender is going to happen every spring, and also the value for your house. They're two different things. And there are two different activities that you need to be watching out for. So I just want to give you, a heads up really about that. So we're going to answer another question, and then I am going to pull up the website. I'm just going to show you, we're just going to go and we're going to search, and I'll show you a little bit more of what the tax record looks like. So do we have to submit a copy of the driver's license back in the front? I'd do the front and the back. Just to be as a safeguard. It can't hurt. Okay, really good questions, y'all. everyone had a great question. Okay, let's go. I'm going to stop sharing this screen. And I am going to now go, I'm going to share my Zoom. I'm going to share the internet. And we are going to go to, so I'm here searching on Google, and I'm going to say Harris County Appraisal District. Okay. So I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to click the website. I'm just going to click here to the right. So this is what Harris County looks like. As you can see, Harris County is actually one of the better websites. I really don't like some of the other counties, but I'll not say that publicly. I guess I just did. But this is very simple and easy to read. Remember I talked about the forms, if you need certain forms. And they have a good FAQ line. You can just cruise around here. But we're going to go to property search. We're going to go to real property. And we're just going to look for, I'm actually going to even just type in a street name. Oh, here's some that I've looked up recently. I'm just going to go to Cheshire. Like, you don't even have to put the number in. It's going to pull up everything that's on Cheshire. Okay. So here you go. I don't even know which one to pick. We're just going to pick, oh, Houston, or Houston right there. So I'm not violating her privacy because this is public record. So I'm using this as an example. Actually, oh, it's a good example. So up here, you can see actually on this record, in the top corner, it talks about the year. So values are not out for this year yet. So if you want to see what her values were last year, you would do the drop down and go to 2020. So I'm going to do that. You can see ownership history. So here I'm in the hyperlink here in the middle. We can see who all owned the property and when they became entitled. I actually look at that when you give me a contract to purchase. I looked this up, and this is how we can tell if a property is a flip or all kinds of different things. Lenders like to look at all that stuff. So here's her address. Someone asked earlier about the legal description. It's all right here. Okay. The number, the property digit number is up here. And you can also look here. There's some little, I never click on these links, but similar owner name, nearby addresses. Sometimes I do look up by owner. Like if I have a client that I know has multiple properties, I'll put their name and I'll search by owner name instead of address, so that then everything they own comes up. So when you go down here, these are just different things that they have about the property. And these are all the different districts. So this is actually, I coincidentally picked a really good example. So this particular house is not in Houston School District. It's Spring ISD. So I'm here on these hyperlinks. So there's different tax bills, and most houses have different tax bills. If you're in inner city Houston and you're zoned to Harris County School, Houston ISD schools, I love it because it's one tax bill. But that's it. All the others have all these MUDs, and this one has different Spring ISD. And then the MUD down here, if you can see this down towards the bottom, she actually is in a MUD district. So I just happen to know this because I search this stuff up all the time. But if I wanted to view her taxes in Spring ISD, I go over here to the view. That's why I like this. And I'm going to click view, and it's going to take me to Spring ISD. Now, I have to search all over again. So every site has their own search. So this would be a 10-hour webinar if I showed every site on how to search. So you just have to, open the tax statement locator right there. That's probably what I would do. You just want to keep scrolling around until you can find your record and see what the taxes are. Okay, so that's how you do that. Now here, if you go to Harris County is my favorite because it's easy. So you can see that all these taxing districts are under Harris County. Okay, now something like she pays like no taxes, y'all. I mean, I can tell that she's over 65. She has multiple exemptions. You can see up here exemptions. when you have over 65, so I can tell already that this person has lived in the house a long time, okay, because their taxes are super low. So I don't know what the market value is. Well, it says here, so you can tell a lot about a property. Like if you look under appraised values, it says, you know, her appraised value is 130, market value. Okay, so her capped market value is $1,524. Like this lady has all kinds of exemptions, good for her. But when you buy a property, you don't get to inherit that. So don't get excited when you look up different things. That's why when you bought the property, it was so different than what reality is, because they have a lot of exemptions, okay? So I'm just kind of teaching you how to scroll around, but you can see a tax bill on anybody. You could go to any record and see a tax bill, okay? So I'm gonna go back here. So all these little districts here are all included in the same tax bill. I just happen to know, because I'm experienced with this, that her MUD, Multiple Utility District 86, is not. So I'm gonna click on View, and it's going to take me to the website for the utility district. And this one is actually user friendly. Most of them you have to look up, and is it a lid, and is it a MUD, and it's very complicated. But this one is actually pretty simple, and you can see that her taxes for this are $602. So this is for the last tax year, okay? So that's just a quick, you know, just, I don't know, just a tutorial for you on how to kind of navigate. Now, again, all the counties are a little bit different. So you might want to spend some time on yours if you're in a different county and just scroll around and become familiar with it. But when you're there, and when this homestead exemption files, so you're going to file the homestead exemption, and you're going to look up your record again, and you're going to see exemption type. So I'm highlighting it here on the page. Exemption type, that's where you're going to see your exemption. So that's when, well, I'm going to look it up for you in the summer, but if you're watching this and I'm not you're not my client, I'm not going to look it up. But if it says none, then you've got to worry, because that means it wasn't filed. Did they lost the form or whatever? Now there's a reconciliation. You would have to refile, but so it's not one and done. I mean, there's kind of a 2-year look back some people don't file it and they don't realize that it's not filed. So I'm training you to go and look in the summer to make sure that they've gotten it. And it's going to say, when you have your homestead, it's going to say you've got residential homestead. Now, if you have multiple and you're over 65 and some of those other things, that's where it's going to say multiple. Okay, so that's what that says there. Now, I'm going down here. It's interesting. It shows you value in 2019, value in 2020. So her property actually went up from 118 to 130. So that's within the 10%. So that's good. You can also see a 5-year value history. And I'm going to click on that. That's super interesting. Like, ooh, what's her value? So in 2016, it was 98,000. Then it went up to 108. So if the county can, they're going to go the 10% every year if they can get away with it. Trust me. But if they try to do more than 10%, you can totally protest. Like that would be the very basis of the protest. Like, hey, not so fast. And sometimes I will tell you, while we're on this topic, the county will try to get away with whatever they can. And it's also a lot of computers doing this. They're relying on you to tell them that they're wrong. So they might try to go above 10% in a year on your value, and they're relying on you to correct it. So you've got to pay attention to this stuff. Okay, this is really important every spring. Okay. Now, someone's asking a question, which is a good one. Should it say none now? Probably. I mean, it's going to say either what, it's probably going to say none, yes, because the county knows that it's sold. The exemption has fallen off probably, but whatever it says right now is probably none. And so, yes, you want to file the form, and then it's going to change to homestead. So that's a very good question. Very, very good question. So we have a couple other questions. Account number for, let's go to Fort Bend, because this one is about Fort Bend. So Harris County, even though it's my favorite site, I don't want to ignore the other ones. So hang on. Stand by. Yeah, Fort Bend County is another one. Oh my gosh, lots comes up here. Okay, so Fort Bend County over here, I'm going to click on, oh, I didn't do Fort Bend County appraisal district. Okay, Fort Bend CAD search, that's what I'm going to click. CAD is County Appraisal District. So I'm going to click on that. Oh, they changed their site a little bit. Oh my goodness. Okay. So, oh, easy. By owner, by address. Let's just look by address. And I'm just going to do street name. I don't know. I'm going to make up a street name. Flower. That sounds like a good name. There's got to be a property with the name Flower. Oh, look at this. All right. I'm just going to go to one because I have no idea. Okay. We're going to go to Flower Croft Court right here. Okay, so you can see right here, that person that asked the question, it's right here. It says GeoID. I would use that as your account number. But let's click on this one, Flower Court. And they like have recently changed their site. This is the first time I've seen this. It's, oh my gosh, it's showing me the house. Holy cow. All right, so your legal description is here. It is not your quick reference ID. It's the longer number, this one. The geographic ID is the one that I would use. So on the form for the county is different. So every county is different. So you want to see that I believe that this is your account number, this long one. And if you have any doubt, you can put on there, you could put quick reference ID, this one, and then you could double write it and say geographic ID if you want to do that. Now, this tells you more about the property again. You know, the jurisdictions down here. These are the different market values. You just kind of have to scroll around and see what this actually, ooh, this is nice. Property roll value history. You can see all the way back to 2013 on this one. And they didn't have any homestead cap, so they must have vacated it as their homestead back in 2016. So you can tell a lot about a property. And then they've got property deed history. So actually Fort Bend is better than Harris County in this aspect that it's showing everything all on one page. So this was not this way a week ago. So they just did something different. So anyway, very, very telling. And then we'll go to Montgomery County really quick. And then I'm going to end the program with anything that anybody needs. Montgomery County Appraisal District. Property search result right here. There you go. So they're a little bit more archaic, but you just put in the property. We're going to see if there's a flower in there as well. Oh my goodness, lots of flowers. So I'm just going to randomly pick one and see if it goes there. So you see here, it's got account number right here. I don't know why it's not letting me go to this one. It's not hyperlinking it for me. I don't really know why, but I don't want to take y'all's time in doing that. But every county is different. I mean, I've just taught you the basics of how to kind of play with it. But you can see on Montgomery County up here, you would go to forms, like when you're getting all these forms, and you just have to see what the form is called that makes sense to what you're trying to do. Homestead, change of address. The name might be slightly different for different counties, but here, exemption forms, other forms. So I would do, if it was change of address owner, I would look at other, and you're just going to see here and say, which one of these looks like it's mine? Oh, change of address right here. And I'm pulling up the form. Well, that's change of address. That doesn't say anything about name. Appointment of agent, motion to hearing. Let's look under exemption. So here's some of the ones in Spanish. And you're just going to go and you're going to, definitely not cemetery, disabled veterans, survivor exemption, residential homestead exemption affidavits right here. Okay, so you just, have to see what makes sense. And if you have any question, you know, the counties are always really, really good about answering questions. So this concludes my program, and I'm going to let you know how to get in touch with me. So all of you probably have my information, but those that might be watching that I didn't do your loan, loanwithjen.com is my website. We would love you to refer us our friends, your friends. We would love to help them. Any questions you have, you can just email me, and we'll definitely respond as you're filling out these forms. And we'll help you and point you in the right direction any way that we can. And be on the lookout for the tips that I will be giving on potentially explaining about protesting your property taxes, which is a whole other animal in itself. And so thank you so much for attending today. I really appreciate your time. You will get this. We are going to send this out. And thanks for all y'all's support. We're just so honored that you would show up today and that you used us for your loan. We're just really, really, really happy to have you in our sphere. So I will talk to y'all soon. I'm going to end the program and talk to you soon.
Legacy Mutual Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity lender. The opinions expressed here do not reflect those of Legacy Mutual Mortgage.